Just want to talk briefly about truss rods. There's quite a few different truss rods on the market, and in the old days we had what were called single acting truss rods. So a single rod of steel anchored at one end, and by tightening them up they simply compressed the neck and if they were put in the right place they would put a bit of a back bow in the neck. These days we have double acting truss rods. They are designed that when they are tightened in the neck, they bow backwards like this, and if you want you can reverse them and they bow the other way. Why would you want to do that? Well, trust me, there have been times when I've had too much back bow on a neck. Perhaps the frets were put in too tight and it's pushed a bit of a back bow, and so we need to reverse that, and a double acting truss rod is the only way to do it without pulling the neck apart and fixing it. So double acting truss rods really are the only way to go. We sell them in different lengths. We have them about 310 millimeters long all the way up to 610 for your acoustic bass. So this is for small guitars, tenor guitars, that style of thing. And then of course in the middle of the range, 360, 370, 380 for a typical acoustic guitar, and around 420, 440 for your average bolt-on neck electric guitar. These steel rods are inexpensive, they work really well, and they come with this plastic sheath on them, shrink wrapped on so that glue can't get in amongst them. They come with an adjustment end here, which is a chrome plated barrel, and into that we use a 4mm Allen key to adjust them. In neutral, that Allen key is quite loose. In addition to the steel truss rods, we've recently procured some fantastic titanium truss rods. These titanium truss rods weigh about half as much as the steel equivalent, so 50 grams for this one and around 125 to 130 grams for the steel equivalent. So if you're looking for a truss rod that doesn't add a lot of weight to your neck, this is particularly important in classical guitars, for example, then titanium might be the way to go. They're also very strong. Currently we can only get them in two lengths. We have this shorter one for acoustic guitars, which is 360 millimeters, and the longer one for electric guitars, which is 460 millimeters. So, how long should your truss rod be? Let's have a chat about that. Let's talk briefly about electric guitar necks. Here's your typical Fender style bolt-on electric guitar neck. We want the truss rod to act over the shaft section of the neck. Up here in the heel is not really doing anything for us, and of course we don't want anything beyond the nut. So in this case we might be looking for a truss rod that is around 420, 440 millimeters long. That gets the end of it up here. Now let's also talk about which way round they should go. Most electric guitars will have the adjustment at the headstock end, whereas for an acoustic guitar neck, the adjustment is often at the body end and done through the sound hole. I like that arrangement for acoustic guitars. However, on electric, adjusting the heel end of the neck, heel end of the truss rod, is generally fraught with difficulty because it's very difficult to get to. It's buried under a pick guard inside the neck of the guitar, and if it's a set neck, there's no way you can get to it. So you can only do it at the headstock end. So long as you've got around 420 or even 440, which will take you pretty close to the end of a 25.5 inch scale length neck like this one, that's enough. If it was a little shorter, if all you could find was a 380, well, 380 gets you to just inside the heel. It's still operating over the shaft section of the neck, so a 380 truss rod would also work. On an acoustic guitar, we want the adjustment end inside the body, and we want the other end of the truss rod to be just short of where the nut is. We don't want the truss rod to go underneath the nut. So 5 or 10 millimeters at this end, and then the truss rod should run through. This is where the body joint will be at the 14th fret on this particular neck. And so we want the end to protrude into the body by about 30 millimeters, 40 millimeters. Once again, there's a little bit of wiggle room there. So in this case, we're talking about a 380 millimeter truss rod. We could possibly get away with a 370. 360 puts the adjustment end well inside the neck. Not sure that that would work ideally. But if you were making a 12 fret guitar like a classical guitar, then 360 works well. We've talked about the steel and titanium truss rods. Another option that many people like to use are carbon fibre stiffening bars. Typically, these are installed in the neck, one either side of the truss rod. They provide extra stiffness and resistance to twisting when installed properly in the neck. We have them in the shorter ones are 480 millimeters long, and the longer ones are more like 640 long. They are 9 millimeters wide and about 3 millimeters thick. In reality, I think 3/8 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch in the imperial system. So a 1/8 router bit is what you need to install these. Installing them just involves routing these two additional channels either side of the truss rod slot. And we have a jig that we demonstrate in our truss rod installation video, which can also be used to install the carbon fibre rods. You'd route the two channels for the carbon fibre rods first, and then the channel for the truss rod second or third. Anyway, that's the rundown on the carbon fibre rods.